Friends, welcome to episode 175 of the Noclip Crewcast. We got a bumper show today, bunch of cool video games to talk about. Some we knew that were coming out, some indie recommendations from the folks over on the Discord. One we knew was coming out for quite a while that just fucking came out, I guess. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but Hades 2 is out and about in a much larger way, so we're gonna get to talk about that as well. Jeremy Jane, you're here. What is your favorite Greek god, goddess, titan? Who's your MVP?
It's a really hard question. There's a guy, I don't know, he's not even a god. This is a character named Triptolemus from the Eleusinian Mysteries, and mostly I just think that's a very silly name.
Is that where the if it's from the Eleusinian whatever you just said there, does that mean, is that where the concept of tripping came from? Is he the
that is why I like it, is because the Eleusinian Mysteries was like a psychoactive ritual according to the evidence we have. So the idea that people be tripping and they'd be like, oh, it's like Triptolemus. I'm sure there was a good few puns about that.
Yes, his best friend Stoneronomy as well featured
Cheech and
heavily.
Chong, and yeah,
exactly, the ancient Cheech and Chong. Frank Howley, what is your favorite Cheech and Chong movie?
I mean, shoot, I was it Born in East LA? I've only seen them like 25 years ago, so I have no reference.
I couldn't name you one right
Yeah.
now. There's like 50, and I couldn't tell you.
I just
Up
know
in
there's
Smoke, I think is one.
Which is the one where they smuggle the car made of weed across the border. That's like the one.
I think that's all of them.
Well, there's like literally they make a card out of joints, and they like, I don't know. I remember that scene.
Do you guys get those Cheech and Chong ads on Twitter?
I finally had to block that account. Nothing
Yeah.
against Cheech and Chong, but it's like when I see too much of the same ads, I block it. So it was like, yeah, we ship everywhere except Idaho or something like that. And it's like, I don't care. This is so irrelevant to me.
Yeah, they always start. They're good ads because they start with something that is completely like idiosyncratic, where it's not just like, hey, we're teaching. It's some like weird thing that makes you stop scrolling and go, wait, what the fuck? And then you realize it's for weed cookies or whatever. I'm not sure what they're selling.
I've never seen this ad. I somehow have dodged this.
How did you? Well, they know.
I feel like out of the three of us, I'm the one who would be targeted for the ad immediately.
I think,
and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, maybe they just know you're already like a card counting member, so they're not.
I met Tommy Chong at a dispensary.
Oh, did you? Wait, you did?
Yeah.
Just like buy it? Okay. Was he doing a book signing or a joint signing or?
I don't know. I have no idea. He was there promoting something.
Okay.
Clearly it didn't work because I don't know what it was. But yeah, he was just sitting on a couch, and I went up and said hi, and he was like, "What's up, man? Do you want a picture?" And I'm not the type of person who takes pictures with celebrities when I see them because I think it's weird. But I felt
too.
I felt so on the spot that I just like. I mean, Tommy Chong is like, "Sit down, man. You sit down." You know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did he give you some advice? Did he whisper some great stuff in your ear?
No. We didn't really say anything. We just smiled at each other.
Oh, that's awkward and weird. I like it.
It was very strange, yeah.
Did I send you a text message a while ago about a weird church thing in Oakland in the East Bay? Did I send you a Discord or a text about that?
No, but you might be about to tell me about something that I've actually been to.
No. So I know you've been. I know.
Okay.
Yes, that's the story that we don't talk about. But I got, which maybe you'll tell someday. But I saw a news post that sounded very much like that, and I thought I sent it to you. Okay.
No, well, I don't think you did.
We'll take this offline. Maybe it'll come up. Maybe it'll come up at a different point. But I read this article and went, "Oh my god, is that the place?" Anyway, we'll move on from there. Our church, the Church of Noclip, is always has its door open. And if you come in, you'll be greeted by one of our incredible pastors: Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Battle Royale Games, Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Pez. I don't know how to pronounce this, Nate. It's UINT, _Nate. Unt. Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen. Welcome, Jonathan. Eric Hamilton Schneider, Hammer Nerd, Zachary Snader, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sekotis, Jacob Godserve. He's the most holy of all of our pastors. Tohir Teliev and Ryson. Ryson's always taking a piss in the confession box. I don't know what that's about. They're all our incredible Battle Pass holders over at patreon.com/noclip. We are a independent little team of fun little weirdos, and we really appreciate you paying for our food and heat during these. What am I kidding? It's getting warm here in California, isn't it? What's it like down in SoCal at the moment, Frank? Because
it's like good. Perfect right now. Right now it's 69 degrees, but like
nice.
It's been good bike riding weather, good hiking weather. It's been very nice. So like I was just talking to Jeremy before we went live. Like I'm still feeling stressed and off, but like the weather's so nice. So it's like I just need to spend time outside and go do things. So yeah,
enjoy it, but don't feel guilty if you don't. Take your time, man. It's like, you know, I don't think grieving goes by a calendar. You know what I mean? It's going to take as long as it takes. And we really appreciate all the awesome stuff you've been doing for us over the past few months while all that's been going on. You and Jesse recorded a fantastic little quick look of another Crab's Treasure, which also people are calling Crab Souls. And what was the other one?
Sheldon Ring.
Sheldon Ring. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah, that's pretty great. We got that one up on Noclip Crew. I believe, yes, also the quick look for Manor Lords. That game I was talking about last week is also up on Noclip Crew. And we're probably going to have a couple more, I think, because it was a short, slim pickings there for a little bit. And I think what we're getting now is the pre-Game Awards rush of games. And then it's going to be a little bit quiet on the Western Front. And then back to well, I guess summer's always a bit of a toss-up. Summer's always like, oh, some game came out that no one ever knew and now everyone's playing it non-stop again. Lots to talk about. I mean, honestly, so we're not really a video game news show, I think. A lot of stuff happens and we don't talk about it. It's kind of not our remit. We figure people will listen to podcasts that give a shit about reporting the news. It's like our brains are operating on a different time scale here at Noclip because we're working on these big projects that take months, sometimes years to work. We play the games we want to play. We don't get into that sort of stuff, but it would be, like the Helldivers stuff we didn't talk about right last week, right? When that was all, or was that this? I can't even remember it. That actually might have all happened after last week's podcast. Time is so compressed with all that Sony PSN requirement nonsense. But it would be remiss of us if we didn't talk about what happened fucking yesterday, where there was an announcement from Microsoft that they were shuttering, I believe it was 4 studios in total. The 2 main ones are Tango Gameworks, who you probably know from Hi-Fi Rush and I was about to say Ghosts of Tsushima, but what I mean to say is Ghostwire Tokyo, right? And of course, Arkane Austin, who we have been to and recorded we produced multiple documentaries out of there, responsible for games like Prey, Dishonored 1, mostly as a co-develop with Arkane in Lyon, and of course Redfall most recently. They just shut the fucking studios, Jeremy. They just closed those studios.
It's really sad, man. I mean, that kind of stuff is sad even when it's a studio we haven't been to. But yeah, I mean, it sounds, it's kind of stupid to say because, you should feel empathy for people losing their jobs even if you haven't met them or something. But for some reason, having been to Arkane Austin and I don't know, just met those people and shook their hands and heard them talk about the projects they're working on, it hit me extra hard. I mean, I also really like some of the games that they've made. Like Prey is, I think, one of the best games ever.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's fucking, it's sad, man. I don't know. It's very, Frank and I were talking about this before the podcast, that it's just it's hard to watch this happen to such talented people and be like, how the fuck do we have jobs?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's like survivor syndrome or survivor's guilt or something.
Yeah. Like a lot of the folks we interviewed for the, we did a documentary on Arcane's history. We also did a separate one on Prey. We actually did 2 on Prey because we split the opening level into its own documentary so we could spare people from that getting spoiled. And yeah, a lot of those folks are the same folks who are there at the moment. Part of the reason I wanted to start Noclip was to try and shine more of a light on who develops games and why they develop games and stuff like that. And the reason was because whenever there's a narrative in games that feels like that's what people would like to believe, it's almost always bullshit. And that's why I have such like, especially when it comes to like certain studios who are loved or hated, I'm always way more sensitive to that stuff. Like on the positive side, I think, you know, FromSoft, it'd be really interesting to do a documentary on them because I think that their working conditions are probably fucking horrible from all the reports. But people don't talk about that, right? They talk about amazing games, and we all love those games, and I get it. And on the opposite side, I often always go back to the well of Bethesda of like the amount of shit that they get, regardless of the fact that for, at least for the longest time, I don't know, the past few years, it sounds like it's been a bit different maybe, but they had an insanely high amount of retention and seemed to not fire people willy-nilly. Obviously now we're in a post-Microsoft world. That studio in particular was one of the like pound for pound smart, you know, like there's some studios we go to and you're like, oh, you've like fostered talent here and retained people, and now they're really good. Like I think of IO Interactive, I think of probably id maybe to a certain extent, although we didn't get too deep in the weeds on that one. I definitely feel that way about Arkane Austin as well. And there is a narrative that's out there at the moment that like, oh, everyone left once Redfall was starting because it wasn't an immersive sim, and I don't know where the fuck people are getting, like, I haven't heard that. This to me sounds like some bullshit that happens on a message board. And what I think what annoys me about it is like, Redfall was not a game that I think a lot of people enjoyed. I think it was outside of their wheelhouse a little bit, but I also don't blame them for taking a swing at something different, because they were making the best immersive sims in the world and nobody was fucking buying them. And these people are like trying to save their jobs. So if they make Prey and it comes out, nobody fucking, or not enough people buy it. They make Moon Crash, it's incredible, not enough people buy it. I don't know what else they're supposed to do. I think if they're going to pivot to doing like some sort of co-op shooter thing that like leverages the talents of their, and this is my conjecture now at this stage, but I look at it and go, oh, they're probably wanting to work on something that doesn't require the insane amount of like top down work that is required on an immersive sim, where you have a lot of the mind share is held by like a small amount of people, and then you have like all of these folks underneath it sort of downstream. Maybe something that like is co-op-y and a bit more of a lower barrier to entry. And one of the things that I kept reading was people were saying that like, oh, it was like different people. And if you look at like the names on the credits, I checked it like last night because I was like, I'm not going crazy, am I? It's like, except for Raph, who obviously left to do Weird West, we've also done a documentary or a short over on Noclip Crew about Weird West, which was one of my favorite games of 2022, I want to say, I think. Aside from Raph, and it sounds like a lot of the people who were at that studio from talking to him, over the years are folks he worked with at Leon, I think, mostly. Although I'm sure there's a bunch of people from Arkane Austin as well, have worked on that game or whatever they're doing now. It seemed really disingenuous. And yeah, of course, like I'd say 90% of the people we interviewed, Harvey Smith, Ricardo Bear, Karen, like all these people, studio leadership, and I went through a bunch of the other departments to see, and it seemed like there was still a lot of the same people worked on that game. So I hate like there's this fucking reactionary thing of like, oh, they had a bad day. They made a game that wasn't as good as the amazing game that nobody bought. And suddenly it's like, oh, it must be different people. They all fucking left. And it's like, no, making games is like incredibly difficult. And sometimes you make a game that like runs really well, looks really good, has all of these features, has, doesn't fucking crash, has an art style that's interesting, and it just doesn't connect with people. And that's just it. Should Microsoft fucking close a company because of that? No, they shouldn't. But like, that's not the world we live in. They literally gave away Tango Gameworks' previous game. Well, I mean, it was on Game Pass, but they announced it and released it the same day with no marketing. The other two studios are Alpha Dog Games, which made that Mighty Doom mobile game, and Roundhouse, which I also did not know about, which sounds like it was maybe a satellite office, and it's getting folded into the ZeniMax Online Studios. I believe Roundhouse is based somewhere it might be Pittsburgh, it's somewhere in Pennsylvania, and of course ZeniMax Online are based just south of Baltimore, so it makes sense, I guess, that they're getting rolled in there. But that was just like, it was disappointing to me to hear people saying that, because like literally the entire mission of Noclip is to like demystify all that shit and have people not assume they know everything. And as much of a great game that, Prey was, it also shouldn't be the fucking noose that hung Arkane because they weren't able to sell it or follow up on it,
Yeah. Yeah, it's also rough because we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, but like the stakes are so high with the budgets being so high on games that like, yeah, I don't know, one game that doesn't hit or doesn't sell well or something can be, can spell doom for a studio. If that's not a joke because of Mini Doom. But
the Mini Doom guys listening to this going, "Oh,
it could spell Mini Doom for an entire studio." Yeah,
well, like,
I don't know. It's just...
and even the history of the studio. Like, go watch the documentary on Arkane. Like, do we think that Arx Fatalis sold millions and transported this company? Do we think that like the fact that they had to on Dark Messiah, the fact that they made that game and had an IP stuck on them, which is actually funny because it kind of happened with Prey as well. But like they had 3 big cancelled projects and they were like trying to keep the studio open. Like Arkane's entire history is them trying to keep the studio open, arguably doing games that aren't immersive sims. Like The Crossing was a fucking multiplayer shooter. Redfall is a multiplayer shooter. LMNO was a project that Steven Spielberg was designing. That wasn't a fucking immersive sim. The Ravenholm Half-Life game these are all work for hire gigs. Like the Ravenholm Half-Life game looked cool. I would have played that. But it wasn't like they were saying we're going to make immersive sims until we fucking die. It's like, no, these people had like mortgages and families and they wanted to make the games of their dreams, but also like you need to, bring in money. And sometimes that requires either doing, projects that feel a little bit more mainstream or not. And I think, we all love and respect the work that went on in Dishonored and Prey, and those games hit, but like you can't hold a studio to that level and then criticize them for it and then say that it was the people. Oh, it's a different studio. It's not the same people. It's like, that's just fucking self-serving and shitty and egocentric and has nothing to do with reality. And that was the only thing that pissed me off, because I think the people at Arkane deserve better, and I think the people who worked on Redfall deserve better, because it's really fucking hard to make smash hit games, and that's the bar. Redfall's a fine game. It's not setting the world on fire, but there was a time where you could make a fine game and you could run a company on fine games. I am doing a documentary at the moment on Wipeout, and people fucking love Psygnosis, and boy oh boy did that developer / publisher put out a lot of fine games. Fine games that had good box art and nice art and music, and the games were fine. Shadow of the Beast is a fine game.
I mean, that's a huge part of the argument for, again, we've talked about this all the time, but like if the industry pivoted towards more smaller projects within the studio, I think it would be a more sustainable model. I just think it's hard because I think a lot of people like me are like, yeah, give me like a fucking PS1 ass looking 90s CRPG. I think a lot of people who are like play, the latest Madden and like one other game for console at a time there's an expectation of like incredibly high fidelity, incredibly high production values. And I don't know. I think that is like going to war with like the stability of the industry in some capacity.
Somebody made a really good point. I think it was in the comments of the Manor Lords video where they had this is a point that they made that I don't have an answer to, and it sort of more made me pause and think about it too, where they couldn't square the circle between the games are getting harder. The development times on. I was watching a Mike Pondsmith interview for the marketing run up to Cyberpunk 2077. And I looked at the publishing date and it was 14 years ago or something. I was like, wait, is that right? Or maybe it was 8 years. I have to look that up again. I was like, okay. Games take a long time to make. And obviously they, big AAA ones and, ones with lots of assets and stuff like that. Another reason I'm assuming Redfall was the way it was, because we don't have to make a shitload of beautiful levels that people spend 2 minutes in. We can like do it in more of a open sort of map. But they were making the point of like, why is it that games are costing more to make? And then you look at Manor Lords and one person is making this. And I obviously like Unreal is doing a lot of the work on Manor Lore. You know what I mean? Like they're using an engine and trying to, create a game that is, within the means of one person, I guess. But it is an interesting question. Like, I wonder if studios are too big at the moment. And we run into this problem too during COVID for sure, where you start, you start making projects that fit the size of the team. Whereas now I feel like the way Noclip's operating is we're working on the projects we want to work on, and we're just allocating people appropriately. Like Jesse's working on his own doc at the moment. You're working on a bunch of stuff at the moment yourself. I'm working on stuff with you. We're collaborating. Frank's working on his own. He's in pre-production on his own documentary, and we're gonna help each other. Whereas for a lot during COVID, we were all doing it at the same time. And I'm wondering, are some of these studios in a fucked up position where where they could probably subdivide into 3 or 4 different studios, but like the ownership doesn't want that because the ownership already has this portfolio of like dozens of studios. And like, I don't know what Microsoft's plans for, obviously Microsoft's plans for Arkane were shut Arkane Austin. It makes me worried a bit for a couple of other studios over there. Makes me worried for, maybe Arkane Leon and Machine Games having games announced that are coming out at some stage. I don't think that Blade game's coming out I don't know when it's coming out, but not this year, but I think Indie is coming out this year, I'm assuming. Maybe that was a stay of execution for them. I don't know if Microsoft go near id? Like, that's a big question. Obviously BGS is BGS, but like people at Obsidian must be like, what the fuck? I guess that's a good example. I stumbled back into it again, Jeremy. Obsidian might be doing exactly that by having Pentiment and Grounded and Outer Worlds 2 and all those other ones going on. And Avowed. Yeah, they might be the ones doing it that way. Maybe they've adapted.
Yeah, it's not even like, because I've seen some people have a counter argument towards this where like people in indie games say, like, oh, so you just want indie studios to be absorbed by larger studios? And it's like, no, I think that they should coexist because I think they offer different things and I think they bring different things to the table. But I think that like having larger studios have smaller teams within them, not absorb existing indie teams, just like form smaller teams within them, working on multiple projects. I think it takes less financial pressure on each of those projects, which in turn like allows for more innovation and risk taking and like creativity. Like, I mean, it's what Josh says in the Pentiment documentary, where he talks about how he did Pentiment because he was burnt out and needed to do something that was like small and attainable and allowed for creative expression. It seems like kind of a win-win for, I don't know. I mean, Pentiment didn't have the fucking reach of like, I was gonna say Outer Worlds. I assume it didn't have the reach of Outer Worlds. That seems like a safe bet, but like it found its audience. It took fewer resources to create, and the people who worked on it felt fulfilled by it. So it seems like a win-win if you kind of subdivide and have more projects like that.
Yeah, I suspect it made its budget back. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. But what was it? A team of 13 people in total?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems maybe that's fairly sustainable, but obviously sustainability is not the game when you're a large corporation and you are, have a stock price and shareholders and all that sort of stuff. Who was I talking to about this? I forget if this is on the record or off the record, because some of this stuff comes up in the Heart Machine episode 3 stuff with Embracer. Oh, it was on the record. It's on the next episode of Dear Dwyery. I was talking to Dave O'Shree at New Blood, and he was saying, I knew a lot of people who made a lot of money when they sold themselves to Embracer, and they're not very fucking happy now. And, in a way, some of these studios, you dance with the devil. Obviously, Arkane had absolutely no choice over the fact that Bethesda got sold to Microsoft. But Bethesda did. ZeniMax did. And there you go. Chickens came home to roost. Our thoughts with everyone affected, not just the folks at Arkane Austin. Obviously, that's something that touched on us a little bit more because we're fans of those games and we've talked to those people a lot, and I respect a lot of those folks and keep in contact with some of them. So it was particularly tough to hear that one. But of course, the folks at Tango and the other 2 studios as well. Alpha Dog Games, which apparently whoever announced the thing referred to them as Alpha Dog Studios, which is not a great sign when Microsoft's saying the wrong name, and Roundhouse Studios as well. Our thoughts with all of them, and also there was a earnings call with EA yesterday, which sounded like the the thunderclap or the lightning strike before the thunderclap comes. With regard to maybe some layoffs over there, so just massive, I don't know, anger and sympathy. Let's call it that. There was a Mike Ybarra tweet yesterday which sent me over the fucking edge. But I guess the less talked about him, the better. Let's talk about video games, folks. We're going to talk about Hades 2, Minishoot Adventures, and Indika. Let's establish some ground rules for Hades 2. Jeremy, you're not playing this game until 1.0, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, the same as I did. Even though I was working on the Hades 1 documentary, I was not playing Hades 1 at the time. I wait till I don't know. If I play, this is my rationale. If I play early access, I won't play the full game. I'll be like, yeah, I've eaten 3/4 of that cake before.
That's what happened to me. When the game came out, I was so exhausted from the series and everything.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay. And I came back to it like 6 months later. I was like, okay, I can do it now. So myself and Frank have played a bit. So I also understand that there's people in the audience who are probably not going to want to have the Hades 2 spoiled for them. I have, Twitter mute things up because people keep posting character reveals, all that sort of stuff. We're going to talk about Hades 2. We're going to talk about the gameplay of Hades 2. We're going to stay off the story of Hades 2. We're going to stay off reveals as much as we can. The only thing I want to talk about that might be perceived as a reveal today is the second area that is in the game. Obviously, the first one was in the technical test as well. It's in a lot of the game. I mean, the trailers has a lot of the stuff in it already. But I want to talk about that because mechanically, I think it's super interesting, and also design wise, it's something totally new and cool. So if you don't want to hear that, then please skip ahead to the next section. But I promise you, we're very spoiler sensitive people over here, and we'll do our best not to wade into those waters. Frank Howley, how much of Hades 2 have you played? You've been enjoying it?
Yeah, I think probably 4 hours or so. I played a bunch on computer, and then like last night and this morning I was playing it on my Steam Deck, which it runs like flawlessly on that as well. And it's weird diving back in because when I got into Hades, it was the same thing. It was like finally sunk my teeth into Hades. Like I did some game capture on the series, but it wasn't until months or a year after the series was done that I spent like a winter vacation playing like 20 hours in like a week and really got into it. So I started playing Hades 2, and like, I mean, just my favorite element of it, of like my favorite types of roguelikes are roguelikes with permanent progression. Every single run of Hades you're unlocking stuff. And in this, there's so many like collectibles, and like I'm obsessed with like the pickaxe. You're mining silver, and like there's different weapon loadouts. There's so many different loadouts and lots of things to talk about. But and it's really cool, and I want to keep playing it because I keep unlocking and discovering new things, and we won't reveal stuff. But it's really cool.
That's the thing I think that I'm enjoying more about Hades 2 is that there were times on Hades 1 where there's lots of I love about Hades 1. I'm not the type of person who really gets a lot of satisfaction from like action combat games like that. You know what I mean? Like I like the strategy of it, and I like when the boons would give you different, ways of approaching the fights, and you had to adapt yourself. Like that's cool, but like the actual like moment to moment of being a third person camera looking at somebody fighting, that's not that interesting to me. So what I like is like unlocking new stuff, meeting new gods, finding new biomes or areas, whatever they're called. And this game does a lot. There's so many more different unlocks going on at any one time, which kind of was what happened with Hades 1, which was in an early access. It was very like, oh, it's a roguelike, try and get through the game. Whereas they kept layering in more and more of these like sort of different meta progression things. And some of them return from that original game, and then there are some new ones too. Like you mentioned the pickaxe, right? The pickaxe is like for like mining silver, and then you're picking up flowers. And what else are you doing? There's like a bunch of these little...
There's like a thing where you can encourage like spirits to go back to your home world. Like,
right, yeah.
Yeah, those are the only ones I've unlocked so far. I think there's like 3 out of like 5. And then even with weapons, I just unlocked the axe, which I think is so satisfying to use because it has like a really wide range like AoE, so you can just go in and crush things, but you're kind of slower and like, still figuring out the play styles. And like, I feel like in Hades 1, I feel like I was quickly able to find different boons or things that made the game so broken. Whereas I feel like with this, it's still pretty challenging. Like I'm not, but also like by the time of Hades 1, I had leveled up so many times and maxed it out. I like the way Hades 2 does this thing now with you pick different cards and you have I forget what they call that system.
I don't think I've seen the cards yet.
It's like when you go into the weapon world area, you can meditate and then you can pick like.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh, so yeah, the way this works is so instead of in the first Hades, like Zagreus could basically like upgrade his like stats, I think is probably the easiest way of saying it. They've changed that now into these two systems. One uses ash that you collect and the other one uses some other thing. And basically the way it works is you have you spend the ash to unlock certain, like, let's call them upgrades or skills. They're very specific ones. They're like, oh, you get like, maybe you start with an extra 20 health and 20 magic or whatever. Or another one would be like, oh, whenever you're like down to your last 20% of energy, you're damaged, certain attacks do more or whatever. And there's like a sort of suite of cards that you spend ash to unlock. And then on the other side of the screen is basically like her magic limit. And like maybe it starts at 8. And each of those cards has a cost to them. And so, if you pick a bunch of like 4 cards that cost 2 of whatever that fucking currency over there is, the green thing, then you can do that. Or if you have one that's 5 and one that's 3, you can do that. But you can also upgrade that side. So you're basically upgrading the amount of different upgrades that you have available to you, these cards. And then on the other side, the sort of the pool of magic or the pool of cards that you can equip at any one time. And then, you can swap that stuff out as you go along. And they have like a lot of, and that's in that room. And then, I mean, in the main room, you've got like basically the sort of the fates thing that was in the first game. You've got a cauldron that you can do spells on with things that you've picked up in the world. So to your point, Frank, it kind of feels like whenever you go out, you at least know you're coming back with something.
Yeah, constantly. And I'm trying to think of the other elements I really like with it is, the art is always so pretty. All the character designs are incredible. The one thing too that I find new is the sprint feature. Like I don't remember how it was before. I feel like it was just dashes or double dash, but here you can dash and then hold it down to run, and then the mana system is completely new, right? There wasn't like mana before, and that's like throwing me off. And like I was still trying to calculate. It seems like you get mana back at every encounter, and then there's different boons that will love you. Like I just unlocked one this morning where if you stand still, you get mana back super fast, and that felt very like positive. And I'm still trying to find like the thing I'm most satisfied with, and but yeah, it's still trying to find the play style that works for me. Is there any single weapon that you've really enjoyed the most, or what have you had the most success with?
I think I've only gotten unlocked 3. The second one, the 2 swords or whatever, I wasn't great at, and I've just gotten the third one, which seems like it has like a sort of AOE thing to it. But I agree. The art stuff as well. That seems like they have it just seems like they're way further ahead than they were on Hades 1 early access. Like this feels like I haven't gotten far enough, but I haven't beaten the second boss yet. But it feels like this up until this point, the game is like basically finished. The way they use like a temporary like person in like a cowl basically as like the temp art for any character that they hadn't gotten finished in the first game. That's kind of the way they did it. I have met like, I don't know, 20 something characters. I've met one that has that thing on, and he's basically like hidden away in the second biome. So like, it's like very reasonable that he's not done yet. So it seems like a lot of that art's done, and there's returning characters, and some of the returning characters, the way that they have changed the art is just fantastic. There's I'm guessing, I don't know, like some of them have changed. It looks like a little bit of time has passed or whatever, right? So like some of them who were younger, they look a little bit more mature now and stuff like that. So I find that very satisfying as well. Jeremy, do you have any questions about Hades, or are you just like la 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 this whole time?
Oh, sorry, what? I was muted. No, just kidding. No, I'm kind of just enjoying hearing what you guys are like finding. It's interesting to hear you guys talk about it, because in some way it sounds like, I don't know, like just another version of Hades in some ways. You know what I mean? But it's interesting hearing you guys be like surprised about some of the systems. It's heartening to hear.
And it looks like there's a lot in this game. Like I feel like this feels to me, and just knowing the folks at Supergiant, I bet this game is really fucking big. That my feeling is like, I bet this game has a load of biomes in it. I bet there's like loads of fucking crazy shit in here. And like the story stuff is way more like confident, and they're well, confident's not the right word. They're doing more. There's more. They're doing more in every area of this game. Like the way they're telling the story, the way in which just new shit happens all the time. That's really interesting. At least in the first, like, how many hours I played, 3, or I don't know how many runs I've done at this stage. I played the technical test a lot, and then I came in. I was very sad. And also it's that Hades thing of the first time I met the first boss, I beat them now because I had done it like 4 times on the technical test. So I knew the patterns and I knew all that stuff. And even though my character was, fairly under leveled, I felt like it was, comparatively, it was a really good fight. Now I don't know if I want to talk about the second. I'll talk vaguely about the second biome. Frank, have you beaten that second boss yet or not? Without saying anything about it.
Got to the boss, but wasn't able to beat it.
Great boss. Great boss. Vibe of the boss. They're doing across the board with the new characters. Accents, fantastic. There's one god that has like a northern English accent, and she's very funny and jovial. The boss fights have both been great as well, and the second boss fight is just such a lark. But the second area, without talking about, I guess, its theme or whatever, is really interesting because instead of going through gates, you're sort of going down through like pipes or something. It feels so sweaty and weird. The enemies are like, a lot of them are static, but they pop up in different places. There's loads of environmental things you can use. You kind of have to use in those worlds to clear them out. I also might be crazy, but I feel like there's more distinct stages, but they're shorter. Do you have any feeling on that, Frank? In my head, like some of these stages are like you get them done pretty quick, but there's more of them.
Yeah, I feel like in the first one, what specifically comes to mind is in Hades 1, I think it's the second biome that's straight up like the hell magma lava world. It's like
Asphodel, is it?
Those maps are huge. And like it would take, I would do encounters and I would be walking around for like a minute, like trying to find one little goblin in the corner or, the equivalent. Whereas this one, the stages are pretty small, but then there's like 2 or 3 waves and then it's done. But that also means like, I feel like I abused dashing so much in the first one that I would just sprint all the way, and maybe this is why they did this. They fixed it. I don't know, but I would dash way away and then just try to hit triangle and throw my shards or whatever at them.
Yeah,
and I abused that so much. So maybe that's how they changed it. But like, yeah, it's really dense. It's really pretty. I love also after clearing a little stage, trying to again look for the collectibles, the mining or whatever. But yeah, I'm still getting a hand of it. And then yeah, like the second stage. Wait, I don't know what to talk about, what not to talk about, but I love the vibe of it. It's very cool, and the environmental stuff you can affect in there, which I'm still trying to learn how to do so I don't die constantly. But it's really cool.
you can mess yourself up pretty bad in those as well. And yeah, they just have they have new characters you meet in between levels, and they have new interesting little boss fights, and you're even doing things like at the witch's cauldron thing. You can do a spell that adds areas to the levels you're going through, they're just, everything seems up for grabs. There were sort of the gates were up or whatever, the barriers were up, the child barriers were up on the first one. And they were like, this is how the game works. And now they're like, oh, we know how this game works. Let's break all these rules. Let's just go weird. Let's have different parts of the game interacting with different parts. The story can pop up in kind of loads of new ways now. It just seems like it's cool watching a team who make all these amazing original games have a sequel, swing of the sequel for the first time. And you can really fucking tell that they're, that it's such an additive thing. This isn't just more Hades. This is very much I think this is the Hades that'll make it difficult for people to go back and play the first Hades. That's the feeling I'm getting from this one. Hades 2, available now in early access. We do not know when it's coming out. In my head, I'm like, I bet this is out by the end of the year. It just feels like it's not that. I don't think there's that much work that needs to get done. Jeremy, you've not got to talk for a little while. Tell us a little bit about Indika. This one I know was on your radar. We had a bunch of people in the Discord shouting about it as well. Fucking bumper time of year or year for a game where you've got nuns in them, I guess.
Wait, what was the other nun game?
Pentiment.
Oh, well, wait, when did...
It's got nuns.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Was that 2 years ago?
That it wasn't this year. It was a bumper decade. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Name one game that had a nun in it before now.
That's a really good point. Yeah, people will look back at the 2020s and they'll be like, nuns were big, dude. People were really into nuns.
I'm going to see if Nun has a concept page on Giant Bomb.
Yes.
It fucking does.
Okay, can we run that down?
I feel like JRPGs have to have nuns,
Yes.
right? Like Zelda or something. I don't know. I feel like that's...
Most of these pictures are from Japanese ass games.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. This is from... Oh, this is from... what you call it? Chie. She's in... this is Doki Doki, maybe one of them is.
Okay.
One's from Phoenix Wright. Sister Bikini. One is
Sister Bikini.
That's a great name. Double from Skullgirls.
Okay.
There you go. All right, sexy nuns, I guess, if existed. So non-sexy nuns.
All right, so I would say
Protestant nuns.
We're seeing the Nunaissance unfold. Yeah. So okay, so Indika is first of all, I feel obligated to make the joke that this game it's more of a head high than a body high. That would be my byline if I was doing the review.
Okay.
Because Indika is one of the subtypes of cannabis. Okay, so Indika is a game where I'm gonna again, let me do like a spoiler preface on this. I'm not gonna spoil anything past like the first 20 minutes, and even then I'm going to do my best to preserve the experience. And I kind of want to talk about why I'm being so spoiler sensitive about this game, because I think it ties into why I'm spoiler sensitive in general.
Okay.
Let me tell an anecdote about a movie without telling you what the movie is. I watched an old movie one time. And it was about a small town America. It was about like a classic boy meets girl story in the small town in the Midwest. And I had no idea what the movie was about. I only knew it was a classic. And at some point in the movie, the boy who's like a bad boy biker dude comes over to the girl's house. And the dad is like, I don't want you hanging around my daughter anymore. You're trouble. And she's a good girl. She has a whole life ahead of her. And the boyfriend and the dad get into a scuffle. The boyfriend shoots the dad dead. And then the girl and the biker guy leave together. And I was so shocked by this because I had no idea what this movie was about that I just kind of assumed it was like, I thought the whole movie was going to be about this little small town romance. And then, the act one act break, the fucking dad gets shot to death by the protagonist. It like blew my fucking mind because I like to be surprised about like the actual shape of a story. I like to have like, I don't even like to know what a movie is about. I just want to know that it's good enough for me to watch. And so Indika has done some things with its game design that my jaw dropped and I just like laughed out loud because I was like, I can't fucking believe that they're doing this. It seems like a game that is incredibly conscious of its own game design as it unfolds. So that being the preface about why I'm being spoiler sensitive, I want people to have that experience too. So, but Indika is a game about like Russian Orthodox nuns, I guess. You play as a nun in a
another one. Jesus.
I know, we're getting so many. I know the market is saturated. But
alternative Russian games haven't had it this good. The Thaumaturge came out like a few weeks ago. There we go. See, now we got it. That was my fucking real segue.
Yeah, there you go. So you play as this young monastic nun named Indika, who is kind of like not very well liked around the nunnery. There's a line in the opening. There's like a narrator who talks over stuff, and there's kind of interesting play between the narrator and what's real and what's not, and whether it's like a voice in Indika's head or what it is. But because the game is playing with like religious visions and kind of our internal life a lot. It's doing a lot of things that are very meditative like that. But there's a line early on where the narrator says that all of the sisters loved Indika in the way that like godly people love each other, but on a more pragmatic, tangible human level, they all fucking hated her. And I think that's so interesting because this game is constantly kind of like examining contradictions that arise in spiritual life and kind of like it's questioning the basis of spiritual life and the things that make up a monastic life. But in so doing, it is also kind of calling into question the things that are staples of video games as well, which I think is very fucking interesting. So
can we just, and this might be a problem in this respect, given, because I thought this game was one thing because I'd seen screenshots of it, and it seems like the screenshots that are now out today show that this game is like a different type of game. So I don't know. but like just table setting for people, basics. What genre are we talking about? How does it look? That type of thing.
Yeah, it's a very, very good looking third person story driven game. I mean, it looks like any fucking AAA third person game. Like I would say it's like The Last of Us without guns. If you're looking for just like genre bare bones description.
It looks like a really good like Unreal Engine demo or something.
It is an Unreal, and it does look fucking good, and it has some really nice. In fact, this kind of plays into what I'm about to talk about, but it has some really nice environmental stuff going on as well. So, like when you walk through the snow, it has mesh deformation in the snow, which I love. But so
take that Pentiment.
Yeah, where's your mesh deformation? So, like, in the first 20 minutes of this game, I was like, I can't fucking believe they're doing this, because essentially the game is like, it starts out and it's just making you do chores, which is a lot of what monastic. I've never been a monk. I've been to meditation retreats, and I have been to a lot of like meditation events, and used to be like more involved in the kind of like meditation scene in Northern California. And so I've met a lot of people who have lived monastic lives and like been in that like cloistered setting. And a lot of what they do is wake up at fucking 5 a.m. and meditate and eat a light breakfast and then like sweep up around the ashram for hours on end. And Indika is a game where in the opening, they're like, all right, go get a fucking basket of potatoes, and you walk very slowly. This is the first thing you do in the fucking game, is walk incredibly slowly.
Oh, great. I'm so glad you're telling me it's good, because I would have probably turned it off by now.
So like I feel like the only comparison that I kept making in my head was it reminds me a lot of slow cinema, which is a genre of cinema like kind of some of the most famous people are like Tarkovsky and Yasujiro Ozu. And slow cinema are movies that are like intentionally paced very meditatively. So if you're the kind of person who's sitting there like tapping your foot and you're like, what the fuck? They're just like drinking tea.
This is only the start of the game you're talking about, though, right?
I mean, I've played about 2 hours of it. It definitely picks up in pace a lot. I would say the intro of the game is what I would describe as a slow cinema filter. I think that the first 20 minutes of this game, people who are going to have the patience for the game will be like, this rules, and the people who will not will be like, why am I fetching fucking water? Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. So even about the first like 15 minutes, but the way it like introduces a chore, and you're like, well, that was incredibly tedious, and then it's like, hey, what if you had to do that like more? What if you had to do like more of that? And I just couldn't fucking believe the game was asking me to do this. And all the while, the narrator is talking about how like there's a line where he says, "Meaningless labor is the basis of spiritual life," and the game itself, I feel like this is the thing that like made my fucking brain light up, is that the game is doing this thing where it's comparing the tedium of monastic life to video games, and there is a fucking point system in this game, and when you do menial tasks, you get points, and you can level up, and there is a skill tree. And so my first level up, the choices were between I wrote it down somewhere. It was I think it was between like tier 6 like humility or like or like level 6 grief.
Excellent. Okay, that's
and I just like, and there's a pop-up that happens after the intro where it's like, by the way, like, don't go for points because they don't fucking matter. And it's so smart in the way that it's like, why would you want chores? You want me to give you chores? I'll give you chores. Like, at one point I found a graveyard, and there was this woman mourning her dead husband. And there were these little like altars around the graveyard, and you could go up to them and light the candles. And if you lit the candles, the game gives you points. And
amazing.
But it was immediately after the game was like, points don't fucking matter.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying now. It's like it's reflecting back a little bit at you, the player, through this very different reality she's experiencing. That sounds cool. I think I'm gonna play this tonight. And maybe next week we can talk about it a little bit more. But maybe let's give folks it sounds like another one where it's like you don't want to say too much about it.
Yeah.
It's another one of these fucking Outer Wilds problems where you want to talk up a game without saying too much.
I do want to say one more thing though.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is interesting about it that I kind of alluded to earlier is that there are very like, you can feel the game design intention shine through in moments of subversion where you will approach a situation and be like, oh, that seems pretty straightforward. Like I guess they're just doing like a pretty video gamey thing. And then as you go to do it, you realize that there is like the game is aware of how tropey that thing is, and it subverts it immediately. I think it's really, really smart in the way it does that.
It's available on Steam, $22.49 at the moment, 10% off. Introductory offer ending in about a week's time. So yeah, you can go like, I guess it's like $2 off. It's not that much. Yeah, you can go buy it now. Is it only available on PC? Let me check. It is also on everything. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S, GeForce Now, of course, for all you GeForce Now heads, and Microsoft Windows as well. Indika, Indika. Let me cough briefly and get to my other sickness I've had for the past 3 days. Minishoot Adventures. I heard about this. I saw them mentioning, I think MinMax did a tweet or something, and I saw a screenshot of this and was like, oh, that looks cool. I love old school shmups, like, you've got a ship, you've got a battle, a big space, and you just drive around, you fly around shooting stuff. Remember shmups back in the day? That was a cool genre. Not many people have done anything with them in a while. What was the game? There was one game that came out. It was Pixel Junk Shooter, was it? I think it was, which was kind of in this realm back in. Yeah, Pixel Junk Shooter was a great little game back in 2009 that did this with decent physics and stuff like that. But like these games were so big when I was a kid on PC, and remember there was that one where you could do that. It was a shoot 'em up, but you imported your desktop icons into this weird world. You'd be shooting your resume and a bunch of MP3s you owned in this world. It was madness. So I looked at this and I was like, oh, I'll play a shmup. I love little top down shoot 'em up where I've got like a spaceship and stuff. So this game is that, but it's fucking Zelda. It's and I don't know how else to describe this. It is a top down, super colorful, vibrant game where you are controlling a spaceship, but for all intents and purposes, the rest of the world is, and I'm not sure if this is what Jesse's working on in his documentary, because he's doing a documentary that is about how a lot of developers are inspired by a certain type of Zelda game. When you look at screenshots of this, does this remind you of any Zelda in particular, guys?
Let me look it up again. Hold on. My internet is being very slow right now, so it's like loading.
Your upload is like fucking 11% here.
I don't know what's going on.
It's funny. To me, it reminds me of Goof Troop, which is inspired by Zelda.
Oh, shit. I love the Goof Troop game.
Goof Troop is like it's very tropical and colorful, so it's very bright and sweet.
Goofy games?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's also developed by Shinji Mikami.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
A classic.
Yeah, I guess. There you go. Maybe it's based off of Goof Troop. Name some Zeldas for me, I guess. Ones that are
Link to the Past or Link's Awakening would probably be the closest for this. Yeah, very different art style, and kind of different. I guess the like patches of grass and dirt remind me a little bit of Link to the Past, actually.
So mechanically, I guess I'm not sure, but it's like you're doing a lot of like it's a big open world. There are Metroidvania-esque soft barriers that you need to be able to get past by unlocking certain powers that you get from killing certain bosses. Like it's one of these games. It's very tightly designed. There are the unlock progression is super satisfying. You start out just like shooting one little pew pew pew. All the other enemies are also ships in this world, despite the fact that it's like there's the water level and the desert part of the map and the forest and the swamp and the marsh, and you're unlocking map pieces, and then you have like a little hub area with a bunch of robots that help you to upgrade your guns and get different abilities, like the ability to like travel home, or the ability to I don't want to say too much actually, because like a large part of the fun of this game is sort of realizing, and the game sort of telegraphing like, oh, I'm probably going to need to have this ability to get through here. I wonder when I get that. The shooting's fantastic. The combat's great. It's not too difficult. It's not like bullet hell levels of difficulty, but it's challenging enough. I've not had to like bang my head off against the wall or anything with these boss fights. A lot of the combat, it's super varied. It's just fucking great. It's really, really good. I have nothing bad to say about this game. I've basically been like mainlining it for 3 days. It's $15 on Steam. look up Minishoot Adventures. If the art style makes you go, ooh, you're probably going to fucking love this game. That's my review.
Sounds good. I'm definitely going to check this out. I feel like I need I was thinking about this when I was playing Indika, is that like the types of games I like to play are so neatly categorized into games that like challenge me cerebrally, and I'm like playing Indika delivering water buckets, and I'm like just what's I'm like aware of what my mind is doing, and I'm like thinking about times that I've been like depressed, and then I need games where I'm like, oh, I just got off editing for 11 hours and I just want to fucking blow up colorful nonsense.
This is pure Steam Deck fodder as well. I've only been playing it on Steam Deck. Looks great on a desktop though. Just like graphics are fantastic, music's great, animation's great. I feel like it's probably, I don't know if it's like getting a lot of attention, but it seems like the type of game that kind of should have came out April 2nd. So it only came out last week, and it's got overwhelmingly positive with 1,700 reviews. So it's not like blowing up or anything, but it's clearly done quite well. And well deserved. I'm loving it. It's one of these games I'm going to be really sad when it's over, because I've just had a blast playing it. I think I'm almost at the end. I think I've done all 4 boss fights, and I've unlocked the last area at this stage. Super varied, puzzle-y in some ways. Combat's really good. The graphics and the way they telegraph, when bullets are going to disappear and what trajectory they have and all that stuff is great. And it's also just like a funny collaboration of like a shoot 'em up game that also is clearly like sort of pretending to be like a little role playing, platform game or whatever. So the subversions it does there are pretty cool. So Minishoot Adventures, absolutely love it. Probably one of my favorite games of the year so far. Although it's also a $15 game, so you're gonna play it and then put it down after a while. Frank, do you have any updates on your tennis times?
So in Challengers Mania, which by the way, I found out last night there is a Zendaya action figure. I found out.
Congratulations.
I found out she was in a Spider-Man movie as Mary Jane, so that means they made a Mary Jane action figure of Zendaya.
Oh yeah. So, I thought you were saying there's an action figure of her in the tennis movie.
No, I wish.
That'd be weird.
You could probably get like a tennis racket and put it in Mary Jane's hand, or like a backpack of drugs and it's Euphoria. Either way.
There's got to be a Dune one.
There is. It is. But it's, they look haggard. The Dune.
Shawnee.
Yeah.
Could be anyone.
They got like the nose. It's gross. I don't want Shawnee. Whatever. But Tennis Mania is here. Last week we talked about tennis games. Sega Superstars Tennis is a 2008 Xbox 360 game. Is actually great. I can't believe it.
Oh, he's loving it.
It uses like the Virtua Tennis engine, but you're playing as all the Sega characters. You got all your best friends are in there.
Okay, who we got?
You got Sonic.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Can we guess? Jeremy, you guess one.
It's all Sega characters.
Yeah.
Super Monkey Ball.
You got IE, and like the main monkey guy. I
was gonna say that one. That's a pain in the ass. Now I don't know what to fucking say. Is Knuckles in it?
No, Knuckles isn't, but Tails is in Shadow. You can play as Ulala for Space
Knuckles Erasure.
Space Channel 5, Dr. Eggman. I found out you can play as Gilius from Golden Axe, the little dwarf.
That's okay. I'm in.
Yeah. No, I like it's so the thing that makes the game great is like
nobody knew that fucking guy's name.
No, Gilius. I had to look it up. It's just this little fat dwarf, and it's like that's a tennis guy. No way.
I always picked him, but I never knew his name. There
you can play Knights in the Knights freak from Knights in the Dream.
Knights person. Yeah.
What I like about this game is in their Superstars mode is it's like there's different like almost like Mario Party maps or whatever. There's different like territories, different worlds.
Courts.
Courts.
There's just like regular tennis, right? There's grass. There's fucking other grass. So all artificial mud. I don't know.
All the different courts are themed off the game. So there's a House of the Dead world, and if you do the House of the Dead career mode, it's great. You have to defeat 30 zombies. So you're whacking tennis balls as zombies are coming at you. And
is G in it?
So you can't play as them, but like the levels have the environment. Like the mansion is there. There's zombies. There's like one of the tennis missions is you have to protect the scientists, and scientists are running on the tennis court, and you have to shoot the zombies coming at them. there's the Jet Set Radio world in which one of it is like you have to run away from the Rogaku police for 60 seconds.
Wow.
So as police are trying to tackle you, you're skating around. You also do graffiti with the tennis rackets. Like it's genuinely so
weird. So it's not even a tennis thing. You're not even hitting tennis balls.
It's like they're all mini games. But yeah, it's within tennis, and so it's so charming just to have a. For me, it's like a new Jet Set Radio. Not really, but to have new House of the Dead stuff, new Jet Set Radio stuff. The Super Monkey Ball thing is like, it's almost like pool. You're trying to hit pool, like the monkey balls into, like clear the finish line, things like that. So, and then there's just straight up standard tennis. But then in the tennis, it's very like every character has like ultimates they use, and it gets really ridiculous. And what's great about it is it was a pack-in game on Xbox 360, like when they sold bundles. So you can, I bought it off Amazon for like $8. So
it had like not for resale big sticker on the front of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Don't that was an illegal act. That person who sold it. You can't ever sell it now, Frank.
So yeah, it was not packaged for distribution separate from the 360 console. So that's, so
you can hear the sirens.
So I'm generally surprised. I did also order Virtua Tennis 4, which came out after. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I think I landed on it. Sega Superstars Tennis. If you have a 360, it's not backwards compatible on Series X. If you aren't too ashamed of what Xbox has done, I'm generally sad because I always bleed green for Xbox. But it's a very dark week.
It's dark times for the Xbox fandom, is it?
Yeah. So I'm switching over to Sega. Got my Genesis. No, so yes, Sega Superstars Tennis is very good. So I'm very, very delighted, and it's raining achievements. So I'm very happy.
Excellent. Oh yeah, beautiful. Sega Superstars Tennis. We did get some shit for not mentioning Rockstar's table tennis last week.
Oh yeah,
of course.
So yeah, that seems like a party foul on our end. My copy of that game turned up as well. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but whatever, Jennifer Capaldi tennis or whatever her name was. I forget her name.
Yes.
It arrived. I found it on eBay, so I'm gonna give that a roll. Very happy to have that back in my life. We did get an email about tennis as well. There was some Discord chatter about it, Frank, right?
Yeah, if people want to send us emails, write to us at podcast@noclip.video or within our Patreon Discord. We had Snoopy2111 write in about tennis games. I have to ask if you've ever seen or heard of real tennis. Basically, the source of the sport in the Middle Ages when a bunch of monks in an abbey just made up the game with specific rules for their little courtyard, and those rules have remained unchanged. So you have to play in a court shaped in size exactly the same way as that one. I'm curious if it ever showed up in a video game or if there's something with that spirit. It would be like Calvin ball tennis, weird rules for no obvious reason. Yeah, I wonder, has Jeremy heard of this? Because I know Jeremy...
No. Real tennis. Also, when he said Calvin ball, is he saying that the Calvinists made their own version of real tennis?
No, Calvin ball is from Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like Calvinists.
It's like, is that what the Reformation was about?
Yeah, about tennis, the rules of tennis. Real tennis, sometimes called the sport of kings.
Wow. The original racket sport from which modern tennis, also known as lawn tennis, is derived. I had no idea. This is like when you realize that like soccer is the derivative of rugby, and that's why it was what soccer? ASOC, Association Football, I think is is why it's soccer. Yeah, where it's like, okay, we're gonna do rugby, but just stop picking the ball up for fuck's sake. Oh, you gotta call it a different sport. Okay, real tennis. Why don't they make? Is this what we need to do now? Sports games are ruined because everything's been licensed. So now there can only be one football game, one soccer game. So what we need to do is go back to the old world sports.
Yeah. I need to read this diagram real quick for you guys. This is a diagram of the court for real tennis.
Okay.
It has an absurd amount of delineation on it, and I'm just gonna rattle them off real quick because some of them.
Does it look like a tennis court? It's like an indoor tennis court or something.
It is. Like? Yeah, it's like a big long indoor tennis court. Here's some. Here, let me do a selection for you guys. It says 1 yard through 6 yards. Those are the first 6 reading from bottom to top, and then it says last gallery, 1 yard worse than last. Second gallery, the door, first gallery, and then the line/net, and then
wait. So these are names of like
sections of the court, I guess. And then there's a few side here,
like the 5 yard line, the 10 yard line, like in football they do that, or it's like This 25-yard line. They've just given them each distinct names.
Yeah. They got a first down at the door. They got to get to the first gallery. And then on the side, I don't know if this is a specific court, but they're on either side of the court, it says Deaden's Penthouse and Grill Penthouse. I feel like this is like a fucking Fallout New Vegas quest.
Grill Penthouse.
Service Penthouse. I have no Hazard Chases. I have no idea what's going on here.
Wow. Okay, this is what happens as well. This is why somebody eventually went, fuck this. I'm taking this outside and I'm going to simplify the rules. You know what I mean? They were like, Nunks is like a sort of a gender neutral.
Yes, it's very respectful.
Yeah, yeah. They just, one of them just said, yeah, fuck this. I'm going to make my own sport, because the monks have been having too much of that delicious monk wine, and they have sort of ruled this sport into oblivion. Yeah, this is a very interesting. Apparently, there's 2 courts in Ireland.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm starting to read another list, but here's a list of names for common serve types in real tennis. You've got the railroad, the bobble, the demi peak, the underarm twist, the classic, the sidewall, the high serve / Chandelle.
The sidewall. Yep. You can serve against the fucking wall.
Serve from the back of the court near the side penthouse. The sidewall serve is played a left to right spin at around head height. It is hit directly onto the sidewall above the net. That's sick. Okay, this real tennis sounds awesome.
It sounds like somebody put a tennis court in a handball, in a squash fucking.
Yeah, it's
thing.
like a racquetball the court doubled with a net. A few more here. High sidewall, giraffe, drag, boomerang, peak. These are my 2 favorites. The 2 last ones: caterpillar and the African hunting dog.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does any description of what the African hunting dog does?
Served from the back of the court near the service wall, the African hunting dog is played overhead with a left to right spin, similar to a slice serve in lawn tennis. Typically bounces several times on the service penthouse before spinning off the back wall towards the center of the court. As it does not keep the ball close to any walls, it's generally easy for the receiver and is often seen only by players with prior experience in lawn tennis, not in a high level of play. So this is amateur bullshit.
That's incredible. Yeah. So I found, apparently there's two of these in Ireland. So much to the fact they made a point of mentioning at the top of the Wikipedia page that there's so few of these in the world, but there are 2 in Ireland. I found one of them, the Irish Real Tennis Association. Unfortunately, it looks like maybe it's been closed. The actual the location. They have a bunch of pictures of these guys. They are at, oh my God, the IR. Okay. Put this in the context of imagine growing up in Ireland. This organization is known as the IRTA, which sounds like a cross between a teachers association and a paramilitary group. The IRTA, their fucking Twitter handle. When I was growing up, the IRA went through like a bunch of different versions. There was like the IRA, the provisional IRA. There was a group called the real IRA after a while, because they'd go through like cycles basically. If somebody else would go, all right, we're starting the IRA again, let's go. Their Twitter handle is at real IRTA.
Nice. Holy shit.
They are really, maybe someone on the fucking tennis club is a bit of a Fenian. I'm not quite sure, but irishrealtennis.ie is the website if you want to go see. They're trying to save the Dublin Real Tennis Court. An update from April 2024. On board Planala, that's the planning board, has granted permission for the planning application of September 22. I think they've saved it. The Real Tennis Court building will be refurbished, including the restoration of the tennis court to a playable condition and to facilitate space for temporary displays and exhibitions. There you go, folks.
We did it.
Once the video games are done, this is what we're doing next. We're heading to Dublin. We're doing a documentary on this old ass fucking weird sport.
I mean, we did. Okay, here's how we. This is the trajectory of Noclip. We're doing the Wipeout documentary. A lot of Amiga history in there. We're working our way into the Amiga stuff. You made mention people are going to demand Amiga documentaries. Yeah. Once we get through that, we work our way into Pong, the tennis for 2 or whatever the fucking oscilloscope game is, and then we launch directly into analog games documentaries.
Oh my God,
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's just play in this space for a second, gentlemen. Okay. I have over the years posited, we have all this equipment, we have all of this passion. I can see Frank and his fucking wrestling, his lady Japanese wrestling now. That's immediately he's gone with this. I'm thinking we could pivot. We could easily do a second channel that is not Noclip, that is like something completely different. And, nobody would give a shit about it. It could be analog games. It could be sports, weird sports. It could be weird sports. That would get both this fucking bizarre monk tennis, Frank's awesome. He'd be able to expense every trip he wants now to go see fucking Japanese wrestling. That could be it. If it wasn't that, what would it be? What would be the thing? What would be like a weird YouTube channel to do in like the Noclip style, but it's about something totally different?
That's such a hard question. I don't know. I feel like analog games is a pretty good one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the history of games and sports, and yeah, I like that.
What do we call it? Could we just do it on Noclip then, or would that be too weird?
It would have to be like so Noclip is like you're going behind the walls of the game to get more information.
Yeah.
This is like, but in the bullpen, the locker room.
Oh, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like the dressing room.
Yeah.
It's like the shower.
Yeah. The showers. We just call it in the shower. It's called hit the showers.
Hitting the showers. That's people will definitely know what we're getting. Especially just imagine the muskiness of this is starting to remind me of the fucking second biome in Hades 2 now. But imagine the muskiness of the showers in that real tennis building.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a fucking 200 it's like a 200-year-old building with like a steel roof, and the plumbing's real old, and when they turn it on, this is actually just PTSD from going to a Catholic school and having to run down a cold hallway to get to the showers to shower with all your naked boyfriends.
You had to run down a cold hallway?
Yeah, it was weird. And the brothers would be hanging out there sometimes. Look, man, Catholic school's weird. They had the building where they built the indoor football place where our dressing rooms were was down a corridor that connected the buildings. That was just one corridor that had double doors that opened in the middle to the outside. You had to walk down that to get to the showers because they were in the main building. So you'd freeze yourself running down and kind of expose yourself running down. And they really like now when these words come out of my mouth, I'm like, but they really didn't like when we wore underwear under the shower.
What the fuck, dude?
So yeah, I mean, like they couldn't tell because you had a towel. It wasn't like you were naked when you had your towel with you. But like,
how would they know? Why would they be upset if they couldn't know then?
Yeah, why were they trying to know? I don't know.
I feel like now are we doing this is like a Searchlight documentary to be.
Fuck.
Can I tell? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm not.
I was just gonna say I have an interesting school anecdote as well. I went to a public school in Massachusetts that was I believe they're called satellite schools. There was like an influx of American public schools funded around the time that Sputnik launched because they were like, we have to all our kids are too stupid. We need smarter kids to like win the Cold War.
Wow.
And so my school had kind of like an influx of funding and then fell off as American public schools do. So a bunch of my classes were taught in essentially what was a like a FEMA trailer, like a fucking like
oh my God.
Like a portable trailer that was like affixed to the school that was like a temp building. So sometimes I would have classes inside a building, and then sometimes I would go out to a FEMA trailer for like social studies.
Man, we had, what were they called? There was a word for this. We had temporary built. They were like rooms that were brought in on the back of a truck and dropped. Yeah, it sounds like that. We had that one, but only like for, I think it was maybe 2 years they were there while they were like doing a big addition to the one side of the building. Like we had a bunch of these outside. I forget what the fucking word, but it was only for like a couple of years as a temporary solution. This was the permanent solution.
They were there for the entire. I'll have to look up if they're still there, but they were there for many years. Yeah, I think they called them like the mods for modular building or something. Ours were called prefabs. Okay, so, that makes sense.
Prefabricated buildings or whatever. Yeah, so it sucked in Ireland and probably where you were because it rains a lot. So we were you'd have to wait outside one of these fucking outdoor buildings.
We had like a
car park.
We had like an airport jet bridge that connected. Like you would go through like another temporary structure, like you were getting onto a plane. Yeah, it felt very, very janky.
I guess you'd need to do that in Massachusetts because like Ireland does not really get that cold. Like it rains a lot, but we don't get like that snow very often, or doesn't like it's not cold for weeks on end. Whereas I suspect if you're in rural Massachusetts,
there's like multiple feet of snow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas Frank here is like fucking, like Halloween, man. He's got his outdoor lockers, pure, California school, all that.
You grew up in like a fucking sitcom. Yeah. I want to hear about what was your high school experience like?
Yeah. What fucked up thing happened to you?
Let me see. No, high school was all, I don't know. I feel like high school I never paid attention to teachers. I just goofed around in class, and then I would go home and learn on Wikipedia.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
You heard
it was awesome.
I love it. You've not changed, Frank. That's what I like about you. You're like the fucking sun, man. You're always going to be there, shining down on us, making us feel good.
I took computer classes just so I could like go on the internet. Like,
oh yeah,
like
that was everyone, man.
It was like typing classes. I would do the assignment in 5 minutes, spend the rest of the class like playing Super Nintendo emulators, going on AIM, whatever. And then I remember like at the time Lost was airing, so I would spend the whole day in class just looking at like Lostpedia and like looking up Lost theories and stuff like that.
Like, I wonder what Hurley's backstory is.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was so great. Like I always slept in my first class no matter what. I was very affable, so teachers liked me. I don't know. I had a good time. It was fun.
There you go. Love it.
Yeah.
I went on a website back in the day around the time that Ocarina of Time was big. And I was at my elementary school in the computer lab during like a computer lab, probably like a typing class or something. And I was bored. So I opened this it was like a conspiracy website for like hidden secrets in Ocarina of Time. And
you've told us about this
I've mentioned this website before, but not this particular anecdote. So the website, as I've mentioned before, would play the X-Files theme very, very loud when you would open it. And so in the middle of like a silent fucking computer lab, everyone's like just the sound of it's a boom, 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 just blasted through the speakers. And Mr. O'Leary, I shouldn't use his real fucking name if I'm gonna tell this story. It's too late now. I believe he ended up like using meth or something. There was like a whole thing about the guy who taught me how to use computers was like smoking meth.
Man,
That's why I'm so good with computers.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. Yeah, you're like, did he not like the X-Files?
No, he freaked
Who doesn't
out.
like the X-Files?
That was like his MK Ultra trigger word was the song for the X-Files.
Which I get, actually, sure, like that sounds about right, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about that. That I Want to Believe poster that was too much. That's a podcast this week, episode 175 of the Noclip Crewcast. Thank you to Jesse Grasha for publishing this as ever. Make sure you check out Dear Dwyer, episode 1 that went up last week. It's going to be bi-weekly. Next week's episode is all about New Blood Interactive and their 10-year anniversary. I talked to Dave Oshry about the games that they've made, the games that they haven't made, the deals that they turned down, all that good stuff. So make sure you look for Dear Dwyery where podcasts are sold. Manor Lords and Another Crab's Treasure, I already mentioned, are up on Crew. That episode of Jane Dev's coming soon too. I am going to be in Seattle. I'm flying tonight. I'm flying back tomorrow night. A bit of a day trip. I'm getting to interview Mike Pondsmith as part of our documentary on some sort of video game. I don't know. We're doing a series on some game that came out a few years ago. Mike Pondsmith, pretty famous pen and paper RPG writer and game developer, as it turns out. So I'm going to talk to him about all the fucking weird stuff that he worked on. Apparently he worked on a Matrix Online with Shiny. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. You got to work with Keanu in the end. I guess you got to work with Keanu twice, maybe. I haven't played the Matrix Online in a long time. So looking forward to chatting to him. Hyperlight episode 3 is up for early access at the moment. We're going to get that one out, I think, on Friday. Don't hold me to it. It might be Monday instead. And yeah, everything else is tagging along. We got Dwarf Fortress and Dredge moving along, and a bunch of other bits and bobs. Maybe we'll have some other quick looks. I might want to do one for Minishoot, but I'll probably go back to the start of the game for it.
I have an idea for one. Okay, I wanted to do an Indika one with Jesse. He has not played the game yet. I'm thinking
cool.
Maybe I make him play the opening section and I just like watch him and kind of like interrogate his experience about it.
Excellent. Yeah. You could set it up as like we don't want to spoil this thing, but let's see what it's like. Sounds good. Hades 2, Minishoot Adventures, and Indika are the 3 games we talked about today. And of course, Sega Superstars Tennis and Real Tennis. Apologies, Snoopy 220111. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next week with more video games. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you later. Bye.